Okay, good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube Iyun. Today's Mishnah is Eiruvin Perak Vav, Mishnah is Vav and Zayin. Mishnah Zayin talks about something which has a lot of practical ramifications. Obviously, Mishnah Zayin is talking about Eiruvei Chatzeros, but it relates to Eiruvei Tchumen and also Halakas Neros Shabbos, Halakas Neros Chanukah. Also, if you're eating in one place on Shabbos or Chanukah and you're sleeping somewhere else, right? Where do you put your Erev? And also Erev Tchumen we talked about previously. Let's try to relate this. So the Mishnah says, "Akana Shutvin Sheyochan al Shulchan Avim." The brothers or Shutvin are partners. They're working for a boss, a contractor, and part of the deal is working for the contractor. He feeds them, and he feeds them in his house. Or people are children, brothers that were somech al Shulchan Avim until a certain age. You're like, until the age of 18. It's understandable that your father's going to feed you. So it's not really your own place of achila. So, and they sleep in somewhere else. They have their own place to sleep. They go to the dormitory to sleep. They're considered residing in that place where they sleep. The makom lina, the place where they sleep, is considered the most important place. Now, it's only talking about brothers and shutfim, right? Talking about people that they get nourishment from their father. The father supports them, or the boss supports them. So when they go to that house, that's not considered their makom. Their ikar makom. Their ikar makom was considered their place where they sleep, and therefore, if they're sleeping in there, even though they're not eating there, that is considered a reshus. And if they have other people who share a chatzar with them, they have to make a chatzeros. So you see over here that in this case, at least, makom lina is goram. Now, we had a machlokes by Eiruvin Tchumen is considered. Is your makom shvisa of Eiruvin Tchumen, does that go after your bread or it goes after your feet where you are, and presumably where you stay, where you're gonna sleep? So we said machlokes during Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, right? And Meir says ikar eruv is by your food, and we learn no. We possibly Rabbi Yehuda ikar eruv is actually your shvisa, is where you sleep. Your sleeping is your more permanent place. Now, there is a difference. Eiruvei Tchumen, Eiruvei Chatzeros. Eiruvei Tchumen does not have to be with bread. It can be with wine. It can be with any type of food. Eiruvei Chatzeros has to be with pas. It's not machlokas, but I think we pass it has to be with pas. It has to be dafka with bread. So it's only this case, Mishnah specifies the case of Akan Ashutfin, right, where you are reliant on your father, right? Your whole sustenance comes from your father. Your whole sustenance comes from your boss. However, if you're eating in one place, let's say you're a guest, you're invited to a meal, a Shabbos meal by someone's house, right? So if you're eating a meal by someone else's house on Shabbos, right, you're invited, and it's not chesed normally. He wants you to be there. He wants you, right? You're supported by either your own bank account. You just happen to have a good time to be a guest by his house. So your ikar makom is your pas, right? Your bread is more ikar, at least by Erev Chatzeros. That's what is implied by the Mishnah. Only these cases where they're completely dependent on their boss or their father. So then eating at the father's table is not considered their kviyas. It's not considered where they are. Their kviyas is considered where they sleep. However, it implies that in a case where you're a guest at someone's house or Shabbos house, so then your ikar makom is the achila, which makes sense for Neros Shabbos and Neros Chanukah. Is the point of, at least by Neros Shabbos, the point of Neros Shabbos is to put it the place where you eat your bread, because one of the reasons of Neros Shabbos is to see your food and Oneg Shabbos. Right? There's another reason that you shouldn't trip over that. That applies equally where you eat and where you sleep. But the main place for your Neros is near your table, so you can see the food. If you didn't have electricity, you can see the food and you can enjoy your food better. And even if you do have lights on, electricity, it adds to the ambiance to have nice lighting over there, and adds to the Oneg Shabbos. So I would say by Shabbos, if you're a guest at someone's house and you're sleeping somewhere else, you should light your Neros Shabbos in the place where you eat. And that's true by Erev Chatzeros. Erev Chatzeros is defined as your pas. You have to use bread over there. Why? Because only bread, right, as opposed to if I go and have a snack with somebody, that's not a kviyas. That's not, I'm not stationary over there. When I'm eating bread, I'm eating a meal, and Shabbos needs a meal. So Erev Chatzeros need a meal. So therefore, only these cases where you're generally reliant on your sustenance from your father or your boss. But in a regular case where you're a guest and you're invited to partake in a meal with someone, or you're the balabayas, and you eat in your own house and you see someone else, so makom pito gorem by Erev Chatzeros is not about shvisa, it's not about resting. Erev Tchumen is where you're going to rest, so really it goes like Rabbi Yehuda after where you're going to sleep. But it's not shvisa. Erev Chatzeros is a gzeira, right, that you might carry you can't carry to the chatzar, that's a joint chatzar, because you might carry from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaRabim. And generally, when people are sleeping, they're not carrying things. When they're eating, especially at a bread meal, right? They might venture out onto the street, carry some food out, schmooze in the street, go out to the lounge. I don't know, in the Rosh Hashanah, I don't know, walk around. When you're up and you're about and you're having a good time with the meal, that's when you're walking around a lot. So therefore, Eiruvin Chatzeres is dependent. It has to be pas. It has to be bread. And your makom generally just goes after your pas. So if you're sleeping in one place and you're eating in another place, you're a guest or you're the owner of the house and you eat there. So generally, makom piso is gorim, and therefore you light Neros Shabbos, because which helps with the pas, with the Shabbos meal. You're supposed to have pas on Shabbos. It should be a makom achila. And if you assume that Neros Chanukah are like Neros Shabbos, it's the same idea. So Neros Chanukah also should be, if you're sleeping in one place, eating one place, you should light Neros Chanukah where you eat. I mentioned when I was talking about the Eiruvin Tchumen, I had this question come up, many years ago, when I was in the Mir Yeshiva after I finished college. I went to the Mir Yeshiva for 6 months, and I called my Rebbe from YU, like 5 minutes before Shabbos, because I think I was eating in the cafeteria. Right, we were eating in the cafeteria of the Mir, and we're sleeping in the house. Where do you light Neros Shabbos? If you're not married and you're away from your family, where do you light Neros Shabbos? So he said, light it in your room. He said, light it in the dining room. Light it in the dining room, and don't light it in your room. When I got to Rav Yaakov Friedman's yeshiva after I left the Mir, he said, no. The halacha is you light where you sleep. And I said, but I already got a psak from Yonatan Sachs to light where in the cafeteria where we ate. So Rabbi Friedman told me, if you want, you could, because you got the psak, you should light to both places. Light in the cafeteria, make the bracha, and then go to your room and light also right away, to be both places. He held the makom lina. Now, I can understand their machlokas or Yonatan Sachs and Yaakov Friedman, because it's an interesting situation when you're in a dormitory, right, and you eat in the cafeteria in the dormitory, in the yeshiva building, right? Is that considered to be someone who's, a guest at someone's table, or is it considered to be you're reliant on, the shulchan aviyim, or the Rosh Hashiva shulchan, which is the cafeteria? And I think it depends whether you're paying tuition or not, right? If you're paying tuition, right, so you're paying for it, or your father's paying for it, so your ikar makom, it's your food over there. It's your food. You bought the food by paying tuition, so your ikar makom is your makom achila. However, if you're not paying tuition, right, and they're doing a donation, a lot of people. When many years in yeshiva, I thank you to Rabbi Friedman and other, Torah V'Dasal, Mishar Yashav. A lot of them, I didn't have money to pay for the yeshivas, and so they accepted me with open arms. A lot of yeshivas. I'm very thankful to them for a long time, and hopefully one day I'll have enough money to go back, and when I get the money, to pay them off the debt that I owed them for giving me room and board for many years. So I'm reliant on his table over there. So therefore, my makom, the dormitory room, is really the makom where I should be lighting. And it was true when I was in Rav Friedman's yeshiva. I was reliant on his money, wherever he got the money from in America, and therefore the right place was like him to light in the room. When I was in the Mir, technically I was also, I didn't pay tuition at the Mir, so also probably the correct halacha in retrospect should have been in the room. It's very complicated sugi, but it seems that's my inclination for this mission. Even Eiruvin Tchumen, your shvisa, your resting place, because you don't need bread over there, so your resting place on Shabbat, where do you rest? You rest where you sleep. However, by Eiruvin Chatzeros is a different halacha. It's about kvius. It's about being kovei makom, and you're kovei makom, and then you're going to go outside and potentially violate hotzah, which is yachdur sharab. That's where it goes Eiruvin Chatzeros. So it goes after your makom pito, where you're eating, and therefore that's the place where determines your bias is determined by where you eat, not where you sleep. It's a long type of sugya. I hope I clarified a little bit for you. See you in the next one.